Let me be clear. I think ETFs are step one in the technological revolution in the financial markets. Step two is going to be the tokenization of every financial asset. And to me, this is where we believe it's going. So we're looking at Bitcoin. We're looking at...
After ETF approval, Bitcoin went down to $42,000. That's a 13% drop. The spot Bitcoin ETF trading volume surpasses $7.6 billion in its first 2 days. But why is the price dropping? Let me explain it to you. So by most market structure and technical metrics, Bitcoin was overbought leading into the ETF approvals. Means Bitcoin was in an overbought bubble when the SEC approved the Bitcoin ETFs. Listen to Raoul on why Bitcoin is dropping.
You're gonna see volatility. And I've always reminded you guys in the do not fuck it up mantra, part of that is expect 30, 35% pullbacks. Could be less, but just expect them. And that often happens when you get to this kind of 61.8% Fibonacci level in the first leg of the bull run. It often corrects sharply, people get washed out, leverage is cleared out, and then the real run starts. And the real run is the run to all-time highs and beyond.
So, when the real run starts, what will happen next?
That usually starts around the halving. So I'm guessing there's maybe a month or two of chop. And chop in crypto markets is like down 30%. It's just sideways chop. So just be careful out there. I could be wrong, could keep sailing higher, but you know, it just feels like it's trading a bit heavy. And even if it does as a spurt higher, I don't think it makes much progress yet.
So this is why the Bitcoin is dropping. It's no shocker. We told you in previous videos that Bitcoin ETF going to be a sell the news event. Listen to Raoul explain why these ETFs is turning out to be a sell the news event.
Anybody who was an investor in Bitcoin in 2011-12 was like a Series A investor. 2013 cycle, maybe Series B, 2015, 16, Series C, the last cycle, Series D, we've just IPO'd it. And usually when IPOs happen in strong markets like this, it reminds me a lot of the late 90s. And I was trading a lot then, I was at Goldman as well then. And what you found is after the IPO, it would launch and it would be choppy as hell for a while. Sometimes it would sell off quite sharply. Facebook sold off really sharply as people took profits, repositioned. Now, don't forget, a lot of people have front run this ETF. So they're going to want to unwind. And many of those are going to switch to ETH that I've talked about before. They think, rightly so, that ETH is the most likely candidate for the next ETF. And if Bitcoin went up 100% because of this ETF, ETH will go up 300% because it's less liquid, put the same amount of money in. Also, there's a lot of people unwinding the GBTC arbitrage, closing that position, selling out, moving into a different ETF. There's a lot of shenanigans going on. And you can see that with the net flows. There was 4.5 billion or whatever of total flows. The net flows are much smaller, 700 million or so. It's still the biggest ever ETF launches in history.
This is why the ETFs turns out to be a sell the news event. But not to worry. The $10 trillion assets management firm, Blackrock CEO Larry Fink, is really bullish on Bitcoin. Listen.
It's so important to be anticipating the next move. I would also say on the beginnings of a ETF Bitcoin, we believe ETFs are a technology no different than Bitcoin was a technology for asset storage. We believe the next step going forward will be the tokenization of financial assets. And that means every stock, every bond will have its own, basically, CUSIP. It'll be on one general ledger. Every investor, you and I, will have our own number, our own identification. We could rid ourselves of all issues around illicit activities around bonds and stocks and digital by having a tokenization. But the most importantly thing, we can customize strategies through tokenization that fits every individual. We would have instantaneous settlement. Think about all the costs of settling bonds and stocks. But if you had a tokenization, everything would be immediate because it's just a line item. And so we believe this is a technological transformation for financial assets. I believe, if you want to talk about voting and voting choice and all the things, if we know every moment who is the owner of that stock and it's now time to vote, every individual who has ownership is identified and they can vote their own share.
So, where to invest? What will happen in the crypto market now? Raoul Paul shares his secret plan for investing in these coins.
My view, and I've made this very clear, is Solana's my favorite horse in the race of the big ones. I think the first phase is always Bitcoin outperforming. Next is Ethereum. It's at this point in the cycle when the global liquidity turns higher, and when global liquidity turns higher and you've got a catalyst like the ETH ETF, it'll start picking steam. We saw that last couple of days. It was like, wow, okay, ETH is really trying to outperform. I think it bottomed on the massive ETH wedge chart that I put on Twitter yesterday, and I think it will continue higher over time. And I think ETH massively outperforms Bitcoin for the rest of this cycle. So that's the kind of flow: is Bitcoin, ETH, Solana, with Solana at the top of the pie. Again, I could be wrong. You don't need to follow my advice and my weightings.